Hello, 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 hello. Thank you for joining the Business Plugs Mixer. Hi, my name is Linda Murray Bullard. They call me the Business Plug. And so this evening, I am bringing to you I'm so excited about this conversation because I've been reading, and Elon Musk, if you know who that is, the Tesla guy. He did something that's going to be very relevant to what we're talking about today. But we're talking about emotional intelligence, and we're talking about dealing with corporate hurt. So before we get to that, let me tell you a couple of housekeeping things so I keep my team okay. So I am helping, my goal is to help 124 businesses become certified before November 2024. So if you are looking to get registered at your local, your state, or the federal government, I am actually helping businesses do this. So go ahead and reach out to me in the chat or wherever you're watching this in the discussion. There's a place for you to catch up with me, and let's talk about what your needs are, and let's get you certified before that program goes away, right? So the whole deal is to get that certification, because even if the program goes away, once you've been vetted by the government, you've been vetted. So that even if the program goes away, that vetting doesn't. And it says you are a credible business. So I'm trying to get minority business specifically certified at the local, the state, and the federal levels. Also, thank you, Grant Magic. Last night, Grant Magic. You know what? I love sitting in the room and people confidence level because I'm showing them all about how to do grant writing for themselves, right? And we've talked about all of the beginning parts of it, and then I get to the part where I say, okay, well, let me show you how to use something that's going to up your level. So I have them all log into Chat GPT. And then I showed them about prompts and how to use it. And then the confidence in the room goes from down here to like, woo, I can do this. This is doable. Oh, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to be doing this, that, and the other. And then they apply for their first grants with me in the room. Like, you're talking about a great kudos to all the organizations that joined me last evening for Grant Magic. I will be doing it again. It probably won't be until June. I got a lot going on right now. But in any case, if you can get it, I am working with one-on-one clients. I'm not working in groups. So if you want to know about grants, I can help you with that. If you want to know how to get certified so you can get those grants, I can help you with that as well. That's gotten all my people good. So that should be enough housekeeping. With that being done, I'd like to introduce you to my guest this evening, Twannetta. Did I say it right?
You got it, girl.
Good. Twannetta has come, and we're going to talk about something that's very dear to both of our hearts. So, Twannetta, please tell my guests who you are and tell them about calculus.
Woo, Lord, I tell you. Oh my goodness. Yes, calculus is officially kicking my butt. I got a couple more weeks and then we'll be done with that chapter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda. It is completely an honor. Thank you so much. You are an amazing person. I'm Twannetta Weaver, founder of A Better You by Twannetta LLC. And, I do a lot of things, so I guess you could call me a jack of all trades, really. I have such a varied background when it comes to consulting, but, my sweet spot really is serving people in that nonprofit space, those students, those adults who are, they may be behind in their education. Maybe they didn't quite get the bachelor's degree, but they have education, they have experience. And so
Absolutely.
They are worthy of a great job that's family sustaining. And so a lot of my consulting is really around that nonprofit space to help those individuals become successful, because we want to make sure that we're looking out for them. And I also consult small business owners as well on growth tactics, strategies, marketing. At the end of the day, it's all about increasing revenue. And that's really what I love to do, is to help people win, because when they win, I win as well.
I love that. And so we're going to talk about a part of entrepreneurship that's not really ever talked about, right? We're going to talk about the emotional intelligence of it, and how when you're a business owner, and you're out here and you run into no's, like how do you handle, how do you live past the no's? How do you get past I called it corporate hurt in the title, but it's when you are interacting with executives and high level people, and it doesn't always go the way you thought it would go. Like things, I looked, I read earlier today. I read the article from Inc. about Elon Musk, where the lady who gave, she was the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos. And so that I get it right, it was talking about, he accused Mackenzie Scott of trying to kill the Western civilization. And her response, they considered to be a brilliant lesson of emotional intelligence because she didn't respond. She she just went ahead and did what she had planned to do.
Mm-hmm.
She gave 361 nonprofits funding, random nonprofits that she had vetted through various organizations. When you're in this work, like even if you're for profit or nonprofit or just a business, you're going to run into places where you have criticism, right? Because sometimes it's things we do, and sometimes it's way we're perceived, right? Somebody has a bad experience, or they may have had a bad experience with a company similar to yours. It may not even be yours,
Right.
but it's based on how they perceive it and not you. And so I like in the Inc. article, it talked about sometimes the best approach is to say nothing and just double down doing what you think is right. I love that, right? Because
Absolutely.
you don't have to respond to every invitation. What Elon Musk said, his quote is, super rich ex-wives who hate their former spouse should be listed among the reasons the Western civilization died.
Oh,
Right?
oh my goodness.
Terrible.
That is insane.
That's quote unquote, Lord. And I thought, in her own way, what she did. So like last year, she gave away $250 million in a similar fashion. This year, and I don't know if it was, I can't say it was in response to what he said, but this year she gave away twice as much money. She gave away $640 million to 361 different charitable organizations. And these were organizations that didn't apply for this funding. These were organizations that she saw and had companies vet and say, yeah, give them some money. 360 of them.
Wow. That was pretty calculated, I'm sure.
It was. But so, and we talked about, because when you're interacting with people, out in work, outside of work, whatever, but there are times when your personality may not mesh
Right.
with someone else.
Right.
And that's the part of leadership. So how do you handle that? What happens after that? How do you continue to do what you do and not let that jade you or adversely impact you? Because if you respond the wrong way,
right,
it becomes your problem. It's a them problem, long as they're doing the talking or they're doing whatever they do. But at the point that you take that on, then it becomes a you problem.
Emotional intelligence is key in those circumstances. You really have to check yourself at the door. You really have to. You have to.
And it's intentionality, right?
Absolutely.
because human, everybody's human. And the best of us know to go ahead and say it, just don't press send. You have to get it out of you, right? Absolutely. You have to get it out of it. Go put it on Word, and then that way you don't have to worry about the send aspect of it. But go put it somewhere where it can't go out, and then woosah, center yourself, because the best emotions are those that are in control.
That's right. You said a word there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bridle the tongue. If we take it way back, we need to ensure we cover ourselves and make sure we understand what's coming out of our mouth before we say it.
Absolutely. because it can bite you. It can really bite you, and that feeling that you've been done wrong or you've been injured is valid.
Hmm.
You know, when you've been hurt, I mean,
Absolutely.
so knowing that feeling, that emotion is valid, and people don't get emotional in business, but we're humans, and so we are to feel, and it's a part of our makeup to feel, and so, but we can't control what people say or do.
Right.
But what we can control is our response, and I think it mentions that in the article. It said we can't control what people say or do, but we can control our response or our lack thereof. And sometimes the best way to deal with bullies is just don't.
Right. Ignore them
Yeah, yeah.
when you
Or
can, if you can.
if you can, right? Because you don't want, the fact that they're trying to pull you down shows that they're already below you in
Right.
their whole thought process and things. And so, we hear about the kids, we hear about bullying among the children in the
Mhm.
schools and things.
Yes.
But it is safe to say that there's a great amount of bullying. Those bullying kids grow up to be bullying adults.
Yes, they do.
So
Yes, they do.
and so you have to recognize that's out there. So let's talk about some of the things that you've done in lifting up and supporting nonprofits.
I would say one of the biggest projects to date is, really creating an environment of inclusiveness.
Mm.
Um, there's this particular, actually, I sit on the board of a couple of nonprofits. There's one that's here in the Central Florida area where I live. It's called Jobs Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And this is such an amazing nonprofit. It was under my nose for many years, had no clue that they existed. And essentially, they use a biblical approach to work to
Mm.
give people inspiration and hope
I
that
love it.
not only is work ordained, and it's something that we need to do. We are put here to create and manage the assets that God has given us.
I love that.
So there is honor in work. And so
Yeah.
this nonprofit, they help to restore the whole person and of course give you hope for a better job, because we know that it takes money to make money. We understand that in this world, you have to, especially in the times that we're in right now. And so a lot of the work that I've been able to do is, help this nonprofit increase their marketing and
Mm.
their reach in the community. And again, as I mentioned, this is a nonprofit that's been around for about 25 years. And I've lived in Central Florida for my entire life. I've lived in
Mm.
many places, but this is home. I was born in Central Florida, and I never heard of this nonprofit. So to me, it was just the best kept secret, and it really doesn't need to be a secret. We really needed to spread the message, and so a lot of work I've been
Absolutely.
doing since 2020 is helping them to get the word out to
I
people
love
who
it.
need it. Participate in the process so that I can talk about it and speak about it eloquently, and really, take the opportunity to understand where folks are, in their journey when it comes to trying to find a job. Perhaps they've had, a lot of negative experiences that have contributed to their unemployment. And sometimes it's to your fault, no fault of your own.
Mm.
Oftentimes racial inequality plays a part, and those opportunities are just not available for you. And
Yeah.
so, being able to build people up and really give them a sense of hope and pride, and that they can make it, they can get to the next level. And I really appreciate, I would say that's really where my heart is. If I could just work on that particular nonprofit, I think my heart would be good for the rest of my life,
I
because it
know it.
really checks a lot of boxes for me. But besides helping, deserving community members that need that extra help in their career, I also do a lot of sustainability work. I'm also a part of another nonprofit where I do a lot of marketing for them as well. Again, that's sort of the resounding message, is that I'm looking for ways to help amplify what makes sense. And this particular nonprofit is responsible for ensuring that there's intelligence happening. So when folks move to certain areas, they may decide, I'm going to bring a plant from the Caribbean and I'm going to take this plant and I'm going to plant it in my yard because it's beautiful. However, the impact that it could certainly mess up the natural ecosystem, and there's animals that rely on various plants to survive.
Exactly.
So there's an ecosystem there. And so that particular nonprofit, the Florida Native Plant Society, I do a lot of work when it comes to sustainability and conservation and just making sure that we understand the environment that we live in, that we want to protect it so that the kids coming behind us have a place to live and animals can thrive and plants can thrive. And just putting a marketing message behind that and really amplifying it. I mean, there's so many facets, but I would say those two are really strong on my radar right now. And this year I have a huge goal ahead of me for Jobs Partnership to help increase the enrollment. I would say by maybe about 1,000 participants. And so that means we got a lot of marketing and a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
A lot of advertising to do, and I'm ready to hit the ground running with that goal.
I love that. I love that. I was just talking to the group last night of nonprofits and telling them about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When you're looking at that baseline, that bottom line, because a lot of times with nonprofits, we're trying to move them to the self-esteem,
right.
And build them up and get them, the best jobs, the best clothing, the best this, best that. But my girlfriend who was running a for-profit, and she noticed that the women that she was getting dressed up because she was trying to get them clothing, get them, if they were underemployed, help them to get adequate employment. And then she found out that some of them were sleeping in their cars.
Right.
Being a nonprofit, you have to meet people. I love that you say where they are. And so there are times when we want to help, right, but our help doesn't get us where we need,
right,
doesn't get them where they need to be first, because sometimes you have to realize that first rung of needs has to be met. The psychological part of that, getting that met first, and then they are able to actualize and go on up,
Absolutely.
And so, yeah. And so that's the thing is, I love that you meet people where they are. That the foundation with the trees, right?
Yes.
Great intentions, because we saw something pretty that was tropical, and then we bring it to like here where I live. I'm in Chattanooga, but I love the beach. But here we get a little bit of all the different seasons, but sometimes we get them all in one day.
Right.
So sometimes we can wake up in the morning and it's freezing, and then by noon it's kind of warming up, and then it's like a heat wave at night, and then it drops right back down to 22 during the darkness once the sun goes down. So even though people have good intentions with people or with plants, like knowing what it takes for that person to survive,
right,
is at the baseline for all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important that we understand, things are places for a reason. So, and it's interesting that I will say I didn't start out from a conservation perspective. It was really just trying to understand what are the different nonprofits that could use a voice. And as I began to do a lot of research and, that particular nonprofit, I realized that, and even as we have our board meetings, I'm the only woman of color on that board. And as we look at the population of just, if we take the state of Florida, for example, we've had such an influx of folks moving to the state. But it's traditionally been a retiree state. And so what's interesting is that you see a lot of retirees. The demographic definitely skews higher in age in this particular nonprofit. And it also is, you'd start to notice a lack of that diversity there. And what I love about the fact that I can come in and provide a perspective that hasn't been thought of before as a Black woman, as a woman that's in her mid-career, as a woman that has had an experience in the state of Florida growing up from a child. And it's such a renewed sense of pride for me, because I can put a stamp on that and provide the community with support, provide high school students and college students with education. I do a lot of education direction there. We're actually in the midst of building out some curriculum for high school students so that will be a part of their education as they're looking to graduate high school. They'll need to achieve some education as it relates to conservation. And I'm so excited to be able to create this content to share with them and to just know that there's more than one perspective because we all live in this society and we're all sharing it. And I think that, to me, again, that gives me a lot of pride and joy to be able to contribute from that perspective. And, I definitely hope and pray that many more opportunities for people of color to step into those sustainability roles and really make an impact, because this is the environment. We all share it. Why not have a say?
Absolutely. And what you're doing is building legacy, right? Because teaching young people about the things your organization does, some of them may gravitate toward, this is what I want to do in my life.
Right. And
so having a new understanding of how impactful that can be is excellent. I love that you're getting to do that. And I love that they're open, acceptable to allowing you to do that. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, I saw a commercial earlier this week and it said, I don't want to be a one. It was a women's history. And it talked about how in so many places, women, and particularly women of color, are the one.
Right.
Like, I'm sure you've sat in rooms where you just said, I'm the only one, because I've sat in rooms where I was the only one. And when you're the only one, that's a whole different feel. That's a whole different feel. And not in a bad way, but we have to remember to hold the door open.
That's right. That's right. You have to invite others along for the ride.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, and that's what it was talking about. It was like, I don't want to be one of one. I want to be one of many. And so I'll hold the door for others to come in behind me or with me for that reference. And so I love the work you do. I love that you support nonprofits. And, I hear there's too many nonprofits. They're taking all the funding. And I get to hear that. But I think about, and this is what I talk to nonprofits about. I talk about the collaboration, right, of the different nonprofits, because they all have a different flavor, and it can be the same dish, but of the different flavor. Right. So, combining one of the most proud things that I've been a part of is several years ago, we noticed that the young people 13 to 15 were too old to go to daycare and too young to be employed. Right. And so we created a youth enrichment camp. Like, those kids are in their 40s now. Right. But because giving them something to do redirected that energy to a positive place, and the entire city benefited from it. Like, having that level of impact and keeping it, for the most part, they've done very well. That group of kids has done very well.
Right.
And so that's what you're doing at the high school.
Absolutely. And it's given another perspective. You and I were kind of chatting right before we started here, with your grandbaby having the education in engineering, which is amazing. And when we start to look at STEM education, with children, to get them interested in the hard stuff, as you put it before, because it's true. You have to expose them. And so when we think about all the foods that we eat, we nourish our bodies, and then there's so many other chemicals that we're consuming. What can we do to kind of shine a light on that and make sure that we're eating better, and that we are, preventing things like cancers and things that, perhaps are a result of the environment and what we're ingesting in our body. But taking on an opportunity for STEM education and careers really helps. And so when you have those conversations about sustainable food resources and things that we can do to protect the environment that we're in, I also think about food deserts. What was pretty interesting is, because a lot of us live in areas where right down the street there's a grocery store. I know for me, within a 5-mile radius, there's at least 5 or 6 grocery stores, and I could walk to pretty much all of them if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And there's neighborhoods that just doesn't exist. And so, being a part of the solution is something that I invite children to start thinking about early in life. What can you do to be a part of the conversation? And,
I love that. Oh, that's absolutely wonderful, because we have food deserts everywhere, right? We have we have neighborhoods that have a lot of liquor stores.
Yes.
They have a lot of cash loan places, but they don't have a lot of support for natural foods that can help people sustain life. And so teaching them about farming, like I am so interested in all the businesses that's popped up that are teaching people how to farm.
Exactly. Oh.
that just does good, because I love fresh greens. Greens are my thing. So, so I love fresh greens, but there are, I was just looking at a proposal that came across my desk last week, and it was where this community was wanting to teach, like it was a housing unit, and they're wanting to teach the residents how to do farming, how to create a garden for the community.
Yes, so needed. It's a skill that honestly a lot of us just don't have.
Yeah.
We just don't have it.
But I love getting out there in the dirt, but I wouldn't want it to have to get out in the dirt.
Right.
I'd want to go when I want to go, not necessarily go because I need to go.
Because you have to, right?
I'm in Green Acres. I'm Lisa.
Me too. We're twinsies, because I can't even keep a plastic plant alive. That's not my thing. I'm more on the research side of it, but growing is not me. I wish.
I have a green thumb. But the body does not bend in the angles it used to bend. This body doesn't bend in the same angles that I used to love when I first moved 15 years ago. When I moved in my house, it was just, they had torn down a house, and the yard, the dirt and everything was chaotic. And I, went out and bought the clay and nurtured the ground and started having grass. And then I, did sunflower seeds that had the sunflower was like big enough. The brown part was big enough for the space. Like I can definitely grow some things.
Awesome.
But again, the difference is I want to do it when I want to do it.
There you go.
I don't want to have to do it. Because it is so empowering to know that something you planted a seed from becomes this big, beautiful plant, or this big, beautiful, watermelon or whatever that is. I mean, there's this power in farming. And I love that the young people now, like they have communities where they're doing RV and farming.
Yes.
I'm like, we're getting back into the nature, right? And so I love that. I love that they're doing that. Can't participate a lot, but there's support from the sidelines. But yeah, so what do you think is the most one of the issues I'm seeing repetitively is burnt out executive directors.
Yes.
And to my take on it is, if the executive director is burned out, unless the board is burned out too,
right,
then the board needs to be a little bit more active.
Absolutely. And what's interesting, oftentimes when people step into those roles, it's because of what's in them. They have that go-getter spirit, and sometimes we don't delegate. I can totally relate. I've been there, and it's difficult, but you have to learn how to let go. And sometimes you got to be a little bit more direct and say, hey, listen, I need help, and this organization, this mission cannot survive if I can't make it through. So let's bring more people on board and really give them an opportunity to perform in the role that they have.
Right. Yeah, because I was a secretary. I think I told you before. I was a secretary of a board, and in that little short span of time, it was like 3 years or something, a little bit over 3 years. We renovated housing. like tore down, got a grant, and renovated 8 apartments. We had the youth enrichment program I mentioned, and then in addition to that, we had a computer literacy class for adults. Like we did all of that with a very small. We had a 9-member board, but each board member took onus for a project and saw it through. And so and this is these are the conversations I'm having with board members and with the executive directors, that if you're burned out, is your board working? Is your board active? Because, and if they're willing to be active and you're not delegating, you're not giving because nobody knows how to do it better than you, then that's really not being effective, because you're working at the capacity of you, and it takes more than just one person to get all this work we have to get done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to delegate. And I will say I've seen that really with a lot of nonprofits where, the mission began with the founder, and they're so passionate. And it is true. They probably know every single thing. They've laid the groundwork. But then that's when you really have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because if I want to be a multiplier, because really you have an opportunity to grow and develop folks in those roles so they can be an extension of the mission of what you're looking to accomplish. And so you just really have to think, what is the ultimate goal? It's not about me. And this is for the long haul. And so how are we going to be sustainable? There's that word sustainable again. And in order to do that, you have to empower folks and push them towards the mission and remind them of this is why we exist.
Absolutely. Guide them first. And if they won't take guiding, then push. But but the goal is to direct them, because sometimes people don't know. A lot of the people, and I'm talking to my executive directors, and I'm saying, first of all, put the right person in the right chair. Right. So if they already have those assets, like if they're financial people, they come from a financial industry. If they are marketing people, they come from a marketing industry. If they are operations, they come from an operational industry. We were able to do those things because the people in those industries were already there. So it wasn't hard for me to ask for computers for the computer lit. It wasn't hard for the guy to put our project on the table when we were trying to renovate the houses. He was already in the housing industry. It wasn't hard for the youth person to get the youth enrichment camp up and running because he was already working with youth. Like, it's going to take a board that's working in their genius, doing the things they're already doing well in corporate America or wherever they're doing whatever they do. And so I think putting people in the right seat may, in most cases, cause the board to shift.
True. Agreed.
Yeah, because we got to get this work done. It's a lot of it. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And there's a lot of great organizations out here doing the work. But we could do better, one, if we collaborate.
Right.
With other agencies, and two, if we make sure internally that our boards are effective and active.
Absolutely. And this time of year, a lot of boards are doing strategic planning. I just did a strategic planning maybe about 3-4 weeks ago, where we're just laying out the lay for the land and for 2024 into 2025. And that, again, as you mentioned, as an executive board member, I think we all have to take sort of that onus to say, what are some things that we need to minus and what are some things that we need to add? And, are these goals realistic? And what is the time horizon that we're looking to accomplish these goals? And do we have all the resources that we need? And if not, we may need to say, hey, let's table this one and come back, because again, you're spinning your wheels. If you can't get the things done, and if you have stakeholders in the community that you're held accountable to produce, you're promising certain actions, these people are probably waiting for that service, and they need you. So you have to think about, really what is your capacity, and be honest with yourself.
Exactly. And knowing your capacity, I'm re-upping my PMP. And so all the agile thinking, right? All the design thinking is, going around in my head. But I think about, those things that we don't get done, then we have to iterate them, put it to the next iteration for the next time. And it's not a bad thing to move those things to another time if it's a better fit later. But just really holistically thinking about what can we get done in the next 3 to 6 months? What can we get done in the next 6 to 9 months? What can we get done in the next year? And being very realistic and very actionable about those things, like understanding who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to have on the board? Like, what does it look like? And how does that all align with our mission to what we said we're going to do? Yeah. Because having to talk to board members and say, okay, 3 things every board should have. You should have your mission statement. You should have your vision statement. You should have your core values. Those 3 things are not a non-negotiable. And so having those things kind of gives you direction for everything else.
Right.
And I'm finding a lot of boards don't have any of those.
Yeah, it really is a nice gut check when you can come through the door and ask those questions. Yeah. And if you don't have them, it's time to pause for just a minute. And again, what are we doing? And what is your why?
Yeah, what is your why? Like, what are you really doing? Because there's a lot of things that need to be done. There's a lot of work. And we all know that. And none of us can fix it all. And so how do we niche down our efforts so that we are able to actually be effective?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Those are good questions. And it's so interesting, Linda, as we were kind of, thinking through the segment for today with corporate hurts and that transitions over into corporate America as well.
Yeah.
Even as an individual, what is your why?
Yeah.
What drives you?
Exactly. And when you think about that, like a lot of times we get on a board because a friend asked us, hey, can you be on my board?
Right.
And you have to really, really think about what happens. Because I resigned from the board last year. And I did it because what I want to do for me, like the impact I want to have, is different now. I've been on that board for 4 years, but now my focus has changed. And I don't want to be on a board just to be on a board. I want to be effective. And so I had to rethink about, okay, what do you really want to do? And let's find an organization we can support that's doing that work.
Right. I love that.
Not that the board and me had any outs. They sent me flowers. So cute. They sent me beautiful flowers to thank me for my years of service. But thinking about what do I really, as an individual, like you said, what is my why? And what does that look like?
Right. Yeah. That's important.
In everything. Whether you're a business owner, for-profit or nonprofit, like knowing why you do what you do makes you a better person, and it makes you more refined in how you move.
Absolutely. You have a purpose in life. You're walking in that purpose. There's nothing better than to realize what your purpose is, and then you're making achievements and growth towards that. That's on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, psychological needs. Like now we're getting the self-actualization. That's the pinnacle. That's where we want to be.
Absolutely.
So that's when you can walk in your mission and understand what your why is. I totally agree, Linda.
That's the place to be.
Absolutely.
And so, I challenge board members to not just be on the board because your friend asked you. Like, do you really have a heart and a passion for the mission of the board and the mission of the organization that you are a board member of? And then what value are you bringing to the seat?
Right.
At the table? What value? Because I had some board members say, one summer I spent the whole summer educating 78 nonprofits on how to create a nonprofit. And I did that because they went to get help And the person said, well, you can't be a nonprofit if you don't have money on your board. And I was like, I don't know if that's true or not, but it's what hadn't been true in my life, right? Because those things that we did, we had $0. Like our board had less than zero because we didn't know, we didn't have the knowledge of where to go, and then we didn't have the experience to help us, But what we knew was on the board, you had people once they were given the task of going to get something, of thinking through how can we make this happen. You had people who were go-getters and who were open to having conversations in various arenas to ask for the things that we thought we needed. And so that was the difference is boards. No, do you need money? Yes, you do need money, but more important than money, you need access.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I find that we don't use all our resources.
Oh, there's, as you know, because you're the business plug. So there's, we're tiptoeing around opportunities all the time.
All the time.
No clue. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Having conversations and like, oh, wait a minute. What? I can do that. I can ask. Yeah. You make it known, because even when people are starting their businesses, when they first start, I'll say, well, just tell your circle, tell your circle what you're doing. Tell them that you're open for business. And they come and they say, Miss Linda, I was at work and I was talking about attending your class and the boss connected me with this person.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Yes.
Like once you put it in the universe, once you say, this is what we're doing, this is what I'm committed to, this is what I want to be in my life. Like everything starts shifting to that. It's the law of attraction. It starts aligning with whatever you say. And so that's why I get on my students when I'm teaching math, GED math, I get on my students about, I can't do this. I'm like, your brain is not going to make you a liar.
Oh, no, for sure. And, I love what you said about, the stars aligning. Because I remember when I started my business and, I consider myself a babe in the industry of consulting. I got a lot more years to go, but I feel that I've definitely earned the years that I have. And, when I said, I want to impact the world in a way that gives me time agency. And I can also use the skills and the gifts that God has given me. And I want to be able to impart wisdom because I used to always be that go-to anyway. And I was like, you know what? I give away a lot of free advice. I need to figure out a way. How can I take this to the next level?
Wait a minute. I should be this.
Oh my goodness. And I just spoke the words and I prayed on it. I was like, I just need, I just want an opportunity to really be able to give back and find a way to also generate revenue and also generate generational wealth and just do all of those things because they can all be true at the same time. Exactly. And literally the stars absolutely aligned. I mean, every opportunity just kind of came, it just felt like divine intervention. And, to your point, as you speak to those in your circle, as well as people who may not even know you just don't always realize all the advocates you have out there in the world, but you have to talk about it. You got to speak it. You got to, put truth to power, and you just really need to own it and go after what it is that you want to accomplish. Because like you said, those stars will start to align for you, but you have to take those actions.
You have to take those actions first. And so as we close, can you tell me something you would like them to take away from this conversation?
What I would love for you to take away from this conversation today is, I think we've had so many nuggets, but mission, I think we all have a personal mission. And sometimes you just need to get quiet and figure out what that is for you. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. We all have an opportunity to improve ourselves and to do things that make sense and matter to us. And that comes at the price sometimes of being quiet. And when I say be quiet, putting other things to the side that are not as the priority and put yourself in a place where you can think and be introspective. And then that way you can go forth and do good in the world. and have that personal mission. But you got to give yourself time to figure out what that is. So make sure that you do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My name is Linda Murray Bullard. They call me the Business Plug. I thank you for joining us this evening on the Business Plugs Mixer. We're here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join us again. And to everyone, thank you for joining us and have a great week, everyone. Good night.
Good night.